Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to join our notification gang. Police officers of Reddit, what was something you saw someone do that made you say wait, is that illegal? There's a bar behind my house. Sometimes I grab a ladder and hop the fence to get there. One time I was hopping back over and got stopped. The cop ran my DL and said, do you? Once I was drunk at a bar that only had one toilet for men and one for women, and the lines were way too long during a football game. So I went outside to pee. I ended up getting a ticket for urinating in public. The next day I look up the code the officer cited me for, and it was the equivalent of littering. But you see, in all my glory, I actually had the decency to pee into a trash can. So I prepared my defense to show up in court and plead to the judge that I was innocent because you can't litter into a trash can. The officer didn't show up to court, so I ended up getting off, but I still wonder how hard the judge would have laughed in my face. Winter, MN, 12 AM, I'm at my dad's house for a visit. He gets too tired to drive me home and tells me to take his truck. I take the truck and head down a steep hill of a street. The truck sounds weird, but I figure it's the four-wheel drive and the snow, ice I'm driving on. Police lights behind me, I slowly pull over. I get out of large truck as the officer comes over. Excuse me, miss. Did you know you're plowing Madison Avenue in the middle of the night? Me, so that's what all the noise is? I don't know what's going with this thing. He probably wanted to give me a ticket for stupidity and illegal midnight plowing. Instead, he helped me get the plow up, then followed me home to make sure I was safe. I had a cop try to give me a ticket for sleeping in my car on the side of the road in a residential area. I was too tired to continue driving home after a visit with my sis, so I took a ramp off the interstate and parked and took a nap to avoid an accident. Literally doing what they recommend to avoid endangering people on the road. I forget the charge, but he basically tried to slap me with some fine that particular area gives to homeless people. Homeless people. If they loiter or hang around too long. Took me a full half hour to convince the guy I wasn't homeless. I was leaving to drive the rest of the way home ASAP, and I was doing what I knew to be safe, and that the 2 fire engines and 3 squad cars they deployed were insanely unnecessary even if I was. Guy just seemed pissed as I was to get a call in the night from whatever rich scardipus couldn't handle some guy taking a car nap and minding his own damn business. I was pulled over a few years ago for not coming to a complete stop at a yield sign. I had slowed down, looked both ways and for oncoming traffic, and then pulled into the street. There were absolutely no cars on the road. Not a police officer when I was 20, I drove my friend to the liquor store since she didn't have a car at the time. It was being shipped across country since she was moving in a couple days. So, being underage, I stayed in the car. There was a cop sitting in a parking lot across the street. As soon as my friend came back, we pulled out and drove off. Cop followed, and pulled us over. Gives me a ticket, takes the booze. Apparently, you cannot drive with alcohol in a vehicle if you are underage, even if there is somebody of age in the vehicle. So, in theory, you cannot drive your parents to the grocery store and drive them home if they bought booze. I had never heard of such a thing, and everyone who I have told about this since has also been dumbfounded. I go to my court date. Judge calls my name, I stand at the podium, and they read the charges. After that, the DA just kinda stares blankly. I don't see the problem, there was someone of age in the vehicle. The prosecutor reads the law/statute/whatever.l. The DA kinda shrugged her shoulders and said okay. It doesn't make sense to me, but it's the law. Driving above the posted school zone speed limit when the sign states 20 miles per hour when children are present. Well then, what constant's present? Children inside the school? Children playing well away from the road in the fenced-in yard? Just school hours in general? During after-school sports and activities? No idea. So unless someone's blatantly reckless and an asshole, I won't stop people for driving over the posted 20. My favorite police incident in my whole life has been the cop that parked his car at a stop sign to give somebody a parking ticket, because the bumper was maybe 1 foot past the "Do not park beyond this point" sign, while the rest of the car was good. An old lady of Latin descent, 70s I'm guessing, attempts to go around the illegally parked cop car, and gets into an accident. She flips out on the cop, screaming at him in Spanglish for being so careless. He just put his head down as this old lady berated him for parking like a fucking asshole. Sometimes I miss Baltimore. Had a cop once follow me for about 20 minutes at 3 a.m. because my friend in the passenger seat knocked on the window of the car beside us at a stoplight. We knew the person in the car, that's why he did it. Cop finally pulls us over on some random country roadway outside town. He couldn't even remember why he stopped us because he had been following us for so long. When I asked him why he followed us for so long rather than just stopping us right away, he said, "Man, it's 3 in the morning, that's how long it took me to wake up the dispatch guy to call this in." Eventually he remembered why he stopped us and we just said we knew the guy and he was like, "Oh okay," and left. Other time I got pulled over for driving too slow down a hill. On big hills I usually just downshift and let it roll rather than burn out my brakes, and the look of shame on the cop's face that he didn't think of that and immediately assumed I was drunk was kind of funny, but he was pretty young, probably not much older than me, so I kinda felt bad for the guy. I told a cop to get off her phone while driving. Turns out cops are legally allowed to use digital devices in performance on their duties while driving in Ontario. They don't get special training either. Not a cop, but once when I was still in high school I ditched school with a bunch of friends and ended up being pulled over for a minor traffic violation. Now, I was a senior and was already 18 years old. Well, a cop is talking with my other friend who is also 18. After a 5-minute talk, the cop turns to me, the only other 18 plus of our group, and asked what my understanding of the truant law was. I told him I thought it was that if I am 18 I can get a ticket for truancy. He smiles a bit and says that's what I thought. And didn't write us tickets. I'm not an officer, but what makes a stop sign legal is well defined. Generally they have to be at least a certain size, a certain height from the ground, and within a certain distance of the intersection or other feature, such as a crosswalk or train tracks. Additionally, the stop signs in parking lots and on private property usually aren't legal even if they are within the legal bounds of size, height, and distance, and there are many of these near me that can't even be argued in court because they are entirely on private property and do not allow traffic onto public streets. So I've been stopped multiple times and had to remind the officer that the stop sign was nowhere near legal. Only once did it cause an actual argument where he had to call it in and they promptly told him that he shouldn't even be pulling people over for that stuff in a mall parking lot anyway. So I'm not a cop, but I was the receiving end of a relevant situation. In high school we just gotten our licenses and we were being stupid kids and we behaved stupidly. We were speeding at night in a van. So much intact we bottomed out, sent sparks flying. Anyway, the cop pulls us over, thinking we were shooting fireworks out of the windows, and technically we were out past curfew. Anyway, I had a small black pouch in my hands that I kinda instinctively drew in. The cop noticed and demanded to know what was in the pouch, to which I replied, "Magic cards, sir." He looked at them and then looked at me like he'd have respected me more if it had been crack.